people want you to lock down, and some don't want you to lock down. And it was a real wrestling. We kept the country safe. We kept the economy going. We had a mantra. We were going to balance lives and livelihood. And I thought we did well. It was a real struggle. Now, the use of these powers introduced the issue, well, not introduced, but it highlighted the issue of fairness in government. Is our government, and I'm not talking JLP or PN, I'm just saying government, how the state works in the use of power, is it fair? That was a big question. Were some people allowed to party and others were not able to party? Were some people allowed movement during curfew hours and everybody else locked in? Did some ministers wear masks and some didn't? Where's Floyd? We might laugh at it now, but Jamaica was not the only country faced with that. You have seen other countries where the fairness and equity in the use of these exceptional powers have been questioned, and governments have been challenged and brought down as a result of that. We have been very scrupulous in how we have used those exceptional powers under the DRMA. And what I would not, in other words, let me put it this way, what I am going to subject everybody to, I am subjected myself to. So if everybody must wear a mask, I am wearing a mask too. If no party, no gathering, I am subjected myself to that. To the point where other political organizations didn't necessarily follow it scrupulously. So while I said to the executive of the Jamaica Labour Party, limit your meetings, in fact, we went for several months without any meetings. We limited our political engagements on the ground because as the government, we had to exemplify the orders that we put in place. That created some amount of detachment. And when the difficult issues of vaccines came about, where as a government we had to promote, even against the notions that the rest of the society had, but it was our duty to do it. Again, that created some distance. So during the pandemic, our economic program was derailed. Nevertheless, we diverted the resources into health so that we could respond. We put in place the programs to be able to respond. And we limited ourselves in respect of the very orders that we were giving. We had to exemplify them. And that came with a political cost. People coming out of the pandemic, they're now being hit by, first of all, the unexpected effect of the slowdown in the production of the productive capacity of the world economy. So we had supply chain disruptions, which led to shortages of goods which led to an increase in prices. The first effect of that was the astronomical increase in shipping prices, which then translated in a knock-on way into all goods. And then out of nowhere, when we thought, we are behind COVID now, another event, the invasion of the Ukraine, which disrupted food and fuel supplies and has had a major impact on the prices of food and fuel. Both of these exogenous shocks, Jamaica, we are minding our own business. We have nothing to do with it. We are being fiscally responsible. We are managing our affairs. And then here comes these things now. But it is affecting your voters. It is affecting the people in your constituency. It is affecting the mood of optimism in the country. And by the way, it is not just Jamaica. Take the time when you can, and first of all, read across the region. Just look at the United States. Going to Europe, there are several countries now which not just the political situation is becoming unpredictable, but their economic situation is becoming unpredictable. There are many countries who are showing signs of heading into a recession. But what is happening in Jamaica? The political mood definitely has been affected. The pandemic has affected the political mood. Many persons were upset about lockdowns and how that impacted their ability to earn, and could not understand why the government had to put in place lockdowns. There are many persons who are now reeling from the increase in fuel prices, particularly on their electricity bill. And for those of you who have to drive, you see it every day. And obviously you would get upset. But not to mention the supermarket prices, the food prices. Believe me, I get the WhatsApp messages, when people who have my number, they go in the supermarket and they say, the oxtail price move up. That's the one I remember most. Immediately they send me a picture. Prime Minister, what is? So I know, I understand it. I quite understand why people would be upset when you go to the supermarket cashier and some things you have to just discreetly put it back. I know, I understand it. So having been derailed by COVID and now impacted by this new shock, we have had to go back to the drawing board. How do we respond? How do we respond? And we have been responding. First, we responded by ensuring that the most vulnerable are assisted, and we responded with support on electricity bills. Yes, and there are many Jamaicans now see their electricity bill come and they see that $2,500 on their bill. It's help. No, Bobby, you don't get none. So it's helpful. And there are many Jamaicans who appreciate it. we have put in place the social pension. Yes, for those Jamaicans 70 years and older who don't have a pension, whether or not you throw your NIS or not. And I say to you now as the representatives, go into your communities and find those Jamaicans, those old retired persons, and get them registered. If you want to make an impact and a difference in the pandemic, that's one way in which you can make that impact as political representatives. Get out into the field and find those persons. They are the ones who are on the margin and suffer the most during this crisis. We have tried to give support to MPs. And many of you now would be contacted by the CDF office about the programs that have been announced. I urge you, don't just give out these benefits on a political basis. Pay attention to the people who really need it. So if you are a political representative and you're wondering, how can I respond to the crisis? Use these benefits in a non-political way, first of all, because they are public funds, and give it on a basis of need as much as you can. And let me add very quickly that the resources that we give to the MPs are not enough to deal with the entire constituency. I want to just be clear with that, because I know that constituents believe that, if the Minister of Finance announced that, everybody get $100 million is given out, which is for everybody, they might interpret it that everybody get $100 million, not that it is the 100 million divided by 63. So we have to be clear that what we give the MPs is not sufficient to respond to every need, and therefore the MPs have to use it to respond to the most vulnerable cases that come to their attention. And all of it should go to the people who need it. So the administrative cost and the other costs, try and reduce those down to the bare minimum and make sure that the benefit gets to the people. That's my advice to the political representatives and agents who are gathered here. Now is the time to ensure that the public resources that are allocated get directly to the people who need it. You are the critical transmission mechanisms. We are working on a program now that will see some support going to registered transport operators. That is being done, I'm told, by the Minister of Finance that process is almost complete. So persons in the transport sector will be able to get some benefits, because I know they are having it hard. We are doing other interventions as well, where we have worked with some faith-based institutions, some churches, to ensure that people who are not caught in the political category, meaning that they don't go to their MPs, that they are also assisted, because they may go to their churches or a recognized NGO somewhere. So we have also put resources there as well. But the biggest test is going to come September morning, back to school. And I think that is when the real pressure is going to hit, when parents have to figure out bus fare, buy all the books. And the Minister of Education is here, and I'm saying to you, Minister, please say to the schools, be very reasonable with the book list. If it's one thing the pandemic has taught us, is that how many of you used to go to school with a knapsack that bend your back like so? I remember when I was going to school, that was if the bag wasn't filled with books, you're not learning anything. But if it's one thing that the pandemic taught us, is that this little instrument can carry 10 bags of books or more. So we have to quickly transition to the technology. So we are planning a very extensive back-to-school program because we know that is going to be a pressure point come September. So we will be assisting parents as much as possible with book vouchers and other forms of assistance. Minister of Education, the tablet program, I think we have to now ensure that the MPs that have not yet worked out their tablets in terms of having them procured and delivered, the MPs who are here where that is not done, make sure that that is done in time for September. And the councillors as well who have some support. The councillors are saying they never get any. They got one. Minister of Education, come rescue me. You haven't gotten any. Okay. The Minister of Local Government and I will have a word. Yes. So that we will be able to have full response at all levels of government. Now, as it relates to back to school, I know that there is a call I've read for the revision of the no tuition policy. Let me be very clear. The no tuition policy is very beneficial to the education system. As a result of the no tuition policy, more resources have been channeled to schools than ever before in the history of Jamaica. When you look at the per student allocation from government, it is significant. There are some schools will tell you that as a result of that, their overall revenues, if I can use that word, would have increased. There are some schools, however, where there may be a small decline or a moderate impact on their overall revenues. The policy is that no child should be turned away from school because of any obligatory fees. And we say to parents who can afford to pay that they should be willing and they should be very eager to make their contribution to the school. Now, there may be a school where the students who go there, the vast majority of the children may come from households where their income does not allow them to pay the school fee. So for those schools, even without the no tuition policy, the collection would be low. But with the tuition policy, the school is guaranteed of getting a flow of income over and above what they would normally get. That is the situation for the majority of schools in the country. There are some schools, however, where the average household income may be able to accommodate the school fee. And there may be some parents who I consider those parents mean-spirited. That because the government say no child should be turned away, they say, chop me off a pay, go on to school. And I'm saying to those parents, don't be mean-spirited. Still make your contribution to the school. This situation exists because we don't genuinely have a separation in Jamaica between public education and private school. In Jamaica, what we have is a hybrid situation where schools that have, significant resources in terms of teaching, some schools may have greater capacity in terms of labs and so forth, they are all in some way sponsored by the government. So that the children from wherever in Jamaica, just as long as they do well on their PEP, gets an opportunity to go to those schools. We didn't ask them when they were going to the school, what is your family income? We never separated children by their family income to say, all right, your family income is this, you go to that school because you can afford that fee. The structure of Jamaican education, unfortunately, that's how it has been for a long time. And it really requires radical change in how we finance education in Jamaica. So I'm asking our schools, especially those who feel that their parents, because of the impact of the pandemic and the inflation, that they may see a fall off in their budget and maybe saying, well, we're going to try to recover this by putting in place exclusionary measures, such as children going back to school in September, being told you can't come to school because your parents didn't pay the school fee. That should not and will not be allowed to happen in Jamaica. I urge those who are thinking like that to consider. For 2 years, the children weren't going to school, but the money still came from the Ministry of Education. For 2 years, we have had education loss. And what are you going to say to us now? That the children returning to school won't have an education if they can't pay for it? I'm saying to us as a country, no, it's not the time for that now. The posture should be, make we get all the picnic them back into school. Come and argue with the government, but don't argue with the child. And my heart saw for education already, so if you come and argue with me about it, you know we're going to find some way to deal with it. Right? So I'm saying, don't put any obstacles come September for the children to go back to school. Minister of Education, start the dialogue, because in education, the real issue is the dialogue. Right? You have to give everybody their respect and talk to them and make sure that they are on the same page. Right? But right now, the national effort, the national interest must be to get all our children back into school. And so MPs, councillor caretakers, agents who are here, you need to be on the lookout and have strong surveillance in your community to find those children who may not be going back to school and encourage them to go back to school. Very important. Now, I want to say something about our youth. The pandemic has exacerbated, made worse, a situation that is long brewing in our society. And I don't want to delve too much into it, but there is a great concern that there is a moral recession taking place in Jamaica. And we're seeing it expressed in all kinds of ways, including our music and our art form and our culture. It's almost considered to be, a kind of decadent degeneration. And there are many excuses being made for it. It's freedom of expression, it's just the way of the world, and that may be so. But even the most liberal societies have put in place measures to protect the vulnerable from such liberal expressions. In the United States, you have to, put ratings on certain expressions. You can't say certain things on public radio. So even though there is the right of freedom of expression, there is an acknowledgement in the society that not all freedom of expression should be available for all elements of the society. The children who would not have developed the context to be able to manage the content. And so you have to protect them from content for which they have no context. And in social media, where there is absolutely no regulation, most of our young people are being exposed to content without any context. Now, I'm treading on very dangerous waters because there are people who, and I always have to do this because I have to explain it, because there are persons who just have one particular view, and when they enter the conversation space, it creates more dissonance than it leads to full understanding. So just to be clear, I am not saying anything to ever suggest that there should be any form of restriction on people's ability to speak. I'm not speaking about censorship. What I'm speaking about is how do you order your society so that those who want to say whatever they want to say and those who want to listen to it, yes, they can go and consume that. But people who need to be protected from that, young children and our youth in particular, that there is some guidance about it. The truth is that not everyone who listens to gun lyrics, for example, is going to go out and kill somebody. No, that's not the case. We know that. It's art trying to reflect what is happening in our society. But if it is repeated over and over and over without a context for those who are young and impressionable, that this is just a song, or it's just a movie, or it's just something someone is saying, they may very well take it literally, and it may lower the barriers towards deviant behavior. The political organization can't stand apart from it and say, well, it's just the way of the world, is so it goes. Because we face the consequence of it. Right? That is why we have the Broadcast Commission. And we very well now have to start, as a political party, grapple with where are we going with the morals and mores and social values of our country. Political parties can't just leave it up like that. So internally you will be hearing more about what we have to do And of course, there are many social issues that the political party has to grapple with. You know, the death penalty keeps coming back up. You know, there are issues of abortion. There are many social issues. And we haven't, as a political party, really and truly paid much attention to them because we have been very much focused on the economic recovery. But you're starting to see the social issues having an impact on the moral compass of the society, particularly among our youths, and how that impacts on the use of violence to resolve conflict. So we await the report of the Anti-Violence Commission, which we have empaneled, to give us a kind of overview of the landscape. What are the institutions that already exist in government? What are the programs? How we can improve them so that we can start to get into that space and engage our young people. Not in a berating way, not trying to condescend to them, but reasoning with them to say, listen, it's all good and fine. We can, sing about all of those things, but please know that that's not reality. There is a reality that we have to deal with. That order, respect, discipline, courtesy, civility has a place in the society. These things have value. You may not be able to trade it on a market and monetize it, but these things add value to the quality of your life and the quality of everyone else's life around you. That conversation needs to be had. And as a political organization, we need to be saying that. That's part of our role, part of our duty. So we have to focus on that, and I'm saying it because I'm segueing into another problem of crime and violence. When we started in 2016, the strategy was that we acknowledged and recognized that we have an emergency in murders and violence. Serious emergency. How do we treat with this emergency? Can we use the same methods that have been tried before? Would those methods work? The answer is yes, we have to keep using the time-tested policing methods to deal with crime, investigation, community policing, increasing patrols, etc. But you also have to put some additional things on top of that, which is why we introduce the states of public emergency. The states of public emergency were designed to bring down the level of murders, in particular, to allow the traditional and conventional policing methods to work. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. The police have interdicted several persons for murder. They have arrested them. They go before the courts. Some of them get bail, and they are back out, and they commit another murder. So the regular, traditional, conventional policing there is challenged. I'll give you another example. Police have good cases, bring them to court. Witnesses don't turn up. Witnesses are killed. So how does the conventional policing work in these circumstances? It can get very frustrating for the police, and sometimes you see extrajudicial things taking place. The JLP does not believe in the extrajudicial use of the police. And that is why we are the party that established INDECOM, to ensure that our law enforcement does not have to act extrajudicially to get results. And we know that extrajudicial actions do not yield results. What it does is to erode the moral authority of the police force and turns the public against the police. So we thought very carefully about the use of exceptional powers under a state of public emergency. And we knew that if we were going to implement states of public emergency, human rights had to be protected. Because if there's one thing that we learned from 2010, was that the use of state force must not be equated with violence towards our citizens. And we went through a rigorous process of ensuring that the states of public emergency did not result in anyone losing their lives as a result of the use of state force or any deliberate abuse of anyone's human rights. The states of public emergency have been challenged. They've been challenged from a constitutional perspective, and they've been challenged from a legal perspective, meaning whether or not the regulations that guided the use of the emergency powers were consistent with the Constitution or internally consistent. We accept the ruling of the courts in some instances. In others, I think that a review is underway for us to have a second look at them. But at this juncture, with the government trying its best to ensure that we protect our citizens, that we interdict the criminals in the challenging circumstances, with no certainty on the legal positions, that we decided not to move ahead with a further state of public emergency. So the one that existed, we allowed that to come to an end. I want to be clear, however, that the government is developing a new legislative framework that will be consistent, as identified by the courts, with our Constitution, that will allow us to be able to respond to the level of criminality that we have in our country in a way that will be effective. The states of emergency worked. They reduced murders. I remember in 2017, when Montego Bay, this city went out of control, and how it reduced the murders by 365, it was, somewhere 335. It worked in every area that we have put it in. It has worked. So there's no argument about the effectiveness of SOEs as a tool. But remember now, we are the government, and we are sworn to protect the Constitution. We are the government, and there must never be any doubt about our commitment to protecting human rights, even the rights of criminals. That will never be reflected on our record as a government. It is very difficult as I stand here when I have to talk to the victims and the families of the victims, because there is a strong view in the society that our systems are tilted towards the perpetrators, and there is no real care for the victims who suffer from crime and violence. It's a dangerous feeling to have in a country when people start to lose faith in their law enforcement and judicial system. So it is not a mood that we can allow to continue. So what it means for us as a government, as a political party, is that we have to come up with a new scheme, a new framework to properly structure the use of enhanced emergency or exceptional powers so that we can address those criminals who feel that they can act with impunity. And I give the commitment that as soon as we have passed the new firearms legislation, which is part of that new scheme and framework, that we will be bringing the new enhanced security measures bill to Parliament. And with that framework, I am confident that we will be able to get those criminals who are behaving as if they are above the law. So I wanted to assure you that once we have resolved these constitutional and legal matters, we will be resuming our enhanced security measures to get these criminals, because the level of crime that exists in the country is over and above what conventional and traditional policing can manage. Having said that, I want you to be aware that our crime fighting strategy was not only relying on the SOEs or the use of enhanced powers. Whilst we were using the enhanced powers, we were also improving the police. The amount of police stations that this administration has done, what we have rebuilt and what we have refurbished. No other administration has done that in the last 50 years. In the equipment that we have given to the police for communications, you know what I was very pleased with? For over 15 years, they have been talking about the digitization of the station diary. You know the station diary? Station diary is one of them big logbook. This government has done it. We have now rolled out the digitization. Now remember, that is something that whenever you talk to any expert on crime, what should we do about crime? The first, you have to digitize, you have to bring technology into the police force. Well, we have done that. They talk about what you're going to do, mobility. We're doing that. The conditions under which the policemen work, we're doing that. We are addressing all the issues that have been raised about our policing. That's true, we have been doing that. But we need to put in place, as I'm saying, a new framework that is targeted at those high-level criminals who are using, believe it or not, intelligence. And the recent trials that have been made public that you are reading about and hearing on the radio, it is clear that them the criminal, they're not street-level criminal. And therefore, the conventional methods don't work on those guys. I want to shift focus just a little bit as I seek to wrap up, because you have been such an attentive audience, but I do recognize that I have been going for about 40 minutes. The Jamaican economy is doing well. one would never expect that after the pandemic and these shocks that we would have 2 consecutive reports showing unemployment declining. And we're at the lowest ever in history, 6%. And we also reported growth as well. It's hard to reconcile it for someone whose income can't buy them the basic. So even though clearly our economy is recovering rapidly, there are still those people who say, I am not feeling it. I am not feeling the recovery. Understandably so. But just stop for 1 minute and think how much worse off it would be if there was no recovery. If the economy wasn't growing and employment wasn't growing. I hear somebody call a country's name. I'm not calling any country's name. But you can look at other countries and see what is happening there. And it's not just that country. I mean, there are other even European countries where inflation is double-digit. Currencies have fallen by 50% in value. Jamaica has maintained a solid, stable path. And we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to continue to do that by maintaining the fiscal policy framework. We're going to continue to do that by increasing our investment in infrastructure. Yesterday, we broke ground, finally, for the Montego Bay Perimeter Road. Some of you would have seen the improvements happening on the Donald Sangster International Airport on the runway. And the building itself is going to be improved. These are major infrastructure work. When you put the two together, you're over $350 million worth of investment right here. Between the two, over 600 Jamaicans will be employed. On the stretch coming from Westmoreland, coming through to Hanover, coming into St. James, going into Trelawney, we have over 8 hotel construction projects that are either already in the ground, approved and ready to go in the ground, or in approval stages. Not to mention the number of housing developments that are going on in Trelawney, Hanover, parts of St. James, in addition to what the government plans. Now, I see somebody telling me farm road and farm work. Well, I come into those. Well, I may not come to those in this speech. But, but the point that I'm making to you is that the best strategy for recovery and the best strategy for addressing persons who are poor and vulnerable is to keep the economy going. That is the best strategy. So for persons who can't work, either they are old and they have retired, or they are vulnerable, or they have children and can't go out, you target the support to them. But for the able-bodied, get work for them. Stop and think about it for a while. If there is no work in the economy and the able-bodied is there standing up waiting in line for handout, you know what is next? Rebellion and riot. So to avoid that, get the work in so that the independent people in Jamaica who don't want a handout, they want work. Make sure that we have work for them. And that is what we have been doing. Keeping the employment going. Because it gives them some income. It might not be the level of income that you want, but it is better than nothing. And we are going to keep pushing our infrastructure because it is going to keep employment going. But the infrastructure does one more thing. The infrastructure sets the basis for further growth, which then means further employment. We're going to come through this crisis, you know. Yes. We are going to come through this crisis. But hear what happened now. In 2009, I will never forget it. Minister Shaw, Minister of Finance, we were all in cabinet reading about the fallout in the global financial markets. You recall, Minister Shaw? And the deep fall off, boop, in our economy. You remember that time, right before Christmas, we had to come to Parliament to put on a tax. Yes, you remember that? I will never forget that. Time of crisis. And it took us a little time. By 2011, forget that. But when the other man them come, same crisis, oil price had shot up. You remember? Food prices were going up because the discussion then was to take off GCT off basic food items. Do you remember that discussion? How did that government respond to crisis? Who can tell me? Remind me, what happened? Was there a care program? Was there any safety net transfer to cushion people who were vulnerable and poor? Was there a set program? What was their response? By the way, did they take off the tax of gas? So what are they talking about now? What moral authority do they have to speak? Amazing. Their response was not to spend more on the people. Their response was to tax the people more in a time of crisis. Our response is to keep taxes low and stable and predictable so that the Jamaican people in a time of crisis don't have to worry about any tax on their backs during a time of crisis. I'm urging Jamaicans not to fall for the false hope. I know, my dear, it is rough, it is, I know. But if we deviate and do anything else, it's going to be worse. So we are going to continue to be caring and trying to reach out to everyone who is in need and assist as we can. We're going to keep the economy going so that those people who can work can earn. We're going to keep our stable economic policy so that we don't have to impose any tax or borrow. Because what the people who are telling you the false things don't tell you is that if you spend now, you're going to have to pay for it in some way later. Let us learn from our history and what has happened in the past. We have a good, solid economy now. Fundamentals are good. Let us keep that on track. And I commit to you that this government will not be profligate. Will not be wasteful. Because that is a concern, that in a time of crisis, public resources are being frittered away. we who sit here as the political leadership of the country, we must shun that. We must shun it. Last thing I'll talk about is the collection of garbage. I know that this is a sore point right across Jamaica. I don't like how Jamaica looking now at all. And we have to be frank, because even internally, I know when I meet you one-on-one, that's one of the things, what's happening with the collection of garbage? Now, I'm going to deal with it from two levels. Now, the first level, the high level, is that we are now in the final stages of developing a new framework for waste management in Jamaica, which will see the introduction of waste to energy, meaning we are now going to be able, once this is implemented, to convert the waste that we see into electricity. In the coming weeks, we will be speaking about how we're going to treat with that. I gather there was a fire at Riverton City, which was brought under control very quickly. But in our 60th year, we will be able to say that it is our intention to decommission the Riverton City dump. So you're going to be hearing more about that. And you're going to also hear about the divestment of the collection of garbage, which will mean you will be now bringing in private sector know-how, private sector management to collect garbage. The NSWA, therefore, will focus on its real role, which is that of regulator. Right? So, from a high level, that's where we are. And it has taken far too long, mind you. I mean, I announced that we will be doing this in 2016, and we're just at the point now where we'll be able to make the practical announcements. We had on order some garbage trucks. Now, to be clear, the stock of garbage trucks that we inherited were all depreciated past their useful life. And so we have bought and brought in new trucks, just not enough. Last year, we should have brought in another set, but the resources that were dedicated to that, we had to divert it into the pandemic management. So 100, we should have brought in 100. Thank you for reminding me, Minister Bars. Right, so we should have brought in 100, but when I said that, we got a hit by the pandemic, we haven't gone, Era Council Chairman, we haven't gone and explained to the country what we have had to do to manage the pandemic and the real consequences of it. So, to take the funds to put it into the management of COVID, put it into health, meant that the trucks, the 100 trucks that we had on order, we just couldn't do it. This year now, we have 50 trucks coming. They are on order, and hopefully you will start to see some coming in before the year is out. And that will help. That will help in the collection of waste. We are not happy with it. We are not proud of it. And I know it is a source of real concern, but I give you some assurances that we are addressing it, and you will see improvements in the months to come. Nevertheless, we have allocated some resources for the 60th celebrations. We can't be celebrating our 60th anniversary and the country is not clean. So resources have been made available to MPs at the parish level and to the NSWA. Now, since I'm speaking to the political leadership, many of whom here are MPs and councillors, Yes, and the nation is obviously watching as well. It is absolutely important that the cleanup projects be visible and be meaningful. I want every constituency to find those areas, those illegal dumps, those areas where people make it a custom to throw their garbage, those open lots that are overgrown and filled with solid waste. Get the trucks in, get your tractors and backhoes in, get your workers out, and clean up the place for the independence. We must lead in that process. We must lead that process. So I'm calling upon all of you, and I'm seeing some of you looking like, well, I intended to do it already. I said some councillors saying, well, I don't know about it yet. How many of the councillors know about it? You know about it. A few know. But it is important. Make it your Jamaica 60 project to clean up your division, clean up your constituency. All right? So, as I close, I had water and other things to address. But I won't go into, at another occasion, I'll go into water. The last thing I will say to you, the Jamaica Labour Party has always, people have always tried to frame the Jamaica Labour Party in with a particular narrative. And we must never play into that narrative. The Jamaica Labour Party is not an arrogant institution. Our representatives must never display arrogance to the public. No one here has any divine right to rule. We all are here at the leisure of the people of Jamaica. We are truly servants of the people. And even if them cuss you, what they say about a soft word, I am saying to every one of you here who are agents and representatives of the party, always be respectful of the people. As the mood of dissonance exists in the country, it is quite easy for one misplaced comment behavior that is uncalled for to become an issue around which people coalesce. We don't need that. I don't want to say you should be on your P's and Q's. But what I am saying is that we need to internalize a posture of service and respect. Every day I wake up, I thank God that He has given me the opportunity to serve the country. I thank God that He has given me insight and vision and strength. I'm getting there. And I'm always humbled by the office. I don't think that anyone can say I have taken the office for granted. We hear people out there saying, "Wanna reach now, not paying us any attention." I know, speaking in the defense of the MPs and the councillors and the ministers, that the stress of the job, especially at this time, is significant, and it can affect your responsiveness. And when people are sometimes in desperate situations, they need to hear a word, they need to hear something. Otherwise, they will feel that you have abandoned them. So in addition to your posture of service and respect and humility, now is not the time for you to shrink under pressure. Now is not the time for our political representatives to retreat. Now is the time when you must hold your head up high because your government has performed well. You are not going out there with empty words and beautiful speaking. You are going out there with a repertoire of performance, achievements. More than that, you can draw a comparison even though them not in our lane. But we can say, here's what we have done compared with what they have done. And not because we have done so much, we don't intend to do more. We are a party of ambition and aspiration. We are the party that is changing Jamaica before your very eyes. We are the party that is taking on the big issues and transforming them, not running from them. People will get frustrated, people will feel isolated, people will feel alienated, but we are also the family that cares. So I embrace all of you, and I tell all of you that I love you, and I care about you. I care about the Jamaican people. And you will see that in all the policies that we are putting in place. I give you the assurance, Jamaica, that this present crisis will pass, and it will pass with you being better off at the end of it. That Jamaica will recover stronger than before. And I give you the commitment that we will remain faithful to our principles and our values. And we will be a stronger, prosperous, free, and independent nation. God bless you.
Recovery stronger. Oh yes, my people stronger. Alright, Fofi JLP and Andrew Holness, we see Jamaica prosper. Alright, recovering stronger. Oh yes, my people stronger. Alright.